Hello everyone, welcome to today's video, and today we're going to be ranking all the A Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and there will be some spoilers in this video, so that this is your spoiler alert, and this is just my personal opinion of who I think is the best, who I think is the worst, and so on. So with that out of the way, let's get started. The first one is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I'm not gonna talk much about this movie because this is the worst of the entire franchise, and if you've seen it, then you understand why. Why make another monster that is just another look-alike to Freddy Krueger? I really don't think they understood what they wanted to go for here, and it's clear it's bad story, it's bad characters, and it really is just a bad movie in all. 8 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. I don't think this movie is as bad as it looks, but I still don't think it's that great. The movie, in my opinion, follow a really unlikable story, and its main characters are characters that are really forgettable in this movie. Freddy Krueger is always gonna be decent when he's played by that iconic actor, but in this movie, either Freddy is great, I feel like he's better in most of the other movies he's in. This one, in my opinion, is a slow burn for A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Even though I still think the movie works, as I said, I don't think it is that good. Coming up as number 7 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Now, this one could have been ranked a little bit higher, but I decided to have this one be number 7. And the problem with this one is the same problem that I'm going to talk about the next, is that focus more on comedy than straight out horror is the problem. Not that I don't pay attention to horror elements at all. Some of the things that make the A Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 3rd is that still focusing a lot on horror and pay a little bit to humor, but not over the top. But I feel like the 4 and 5 are the worst example of focusing too much on humor. But if I look away from that, the movie is still pretty great. I like the characters. The actor that plays Freddy Krueger is doing a really great job. The kills are great. The horror is still great, even though I think it's not that great, but it's still good. Number 6 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. This movie has the same problem as 5, in that it's focusing a bit too much on comedy, and the horror isn't that good. But what makes it on as number 6 is that it's a bit better storytelling, in my opinion. I still like the movie. Like I said, I also liked 5. I think those two movies still pretty good, but as I said, horror and comedy have become a problem there. But the actor that plays Freddy Krueger is doing almost as great as a job here as in 5, although I feel like he's a little bit better in 5. I still think he's pretty good here too, and the other characters are good as well. Coming up as number 5 is Freddy's Death, The Final Nightmare. This one is actually pretty great, except from one thing that isn't exactly the movie's fault, more of the direction of the franchise, and that is, this is supposed to be where Freddy finally dies. This was supposed to be his real death, and he was not supposed to come back. And then later you have Freddy versus Jason, which takes a lot away from it. But if you look away from that, this movie is great. It has great storytelling. The actor that plays Freddy Krueger is almost at his best. What more can I say? Storytelling, great characters, actors doing a great job. But maybe the most important, and this is something I want to know for a long time, Freddy's real origin. We know that he was a guy that killed kids before this, maybe had been a child molester too, but it was never confirmed the whole molester thing, and before then we didn't even know his real origin before then. But with this origin we know more about Freddy Krueger, we understand his character even more, and we hate him more for it. He was always destined to be evil. He is a pure evil villain, and he's the example that when you have a pure evil villain, it works. He tried to excuse himself that the other kids bullied me and my father and my stepfather abused me, but in reality he was always going to end up as a terrible person. He has always had a lust for murder, and in this movie that is shown so great. So this movie really earned this spot. Coming up as number 4 is Freddy vs. Jason. I know this isn't that popular of a movie, but in my opinion I think it works great. I think it's better than the ones I said before, and even though that Freddy is still alive took away from a final nightmare, I don't think that's directly this movie's fault, but the fault of the people creating this franchise and the direction they went with. I always like a good crossover, and a crossover between those two characters was something that I didn't think would happen before I saw it. It was a great moment, it was a great movie. I think it earned this spot. Coming up as number 3 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warrior. Now this is a really great movie in my opinion. Maybe it's not for everyone, but I think this is a great movie. I like the story, I like the direction, and I like how it completed the arc for a first main protagonist of the series. I really enjoy Freddy Krueger here. He's really creative when he kills people in this movie, and either there is little that humor is not as bad as in 4 and 5, and I think it makes the movie work even more. I think this movie had done a lot of things right, and if they had failed in 1 or 3 aspects of it, I think the movie wouldn't have been that great. It has earned its place here as number 3. Coming up as number 2 is 2010, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, I know a lot of people hate this movie, but this is the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie I saw, and either though it's a bit different from the previous one, who created the differences, I think that is what made this movie stand out. As I said earlier, the later Nightmare movies focus heavily on comedy in my opinion, and when this movie come out it was straight 100% horror with not that much comedy, and that is what makes it work. And other thing that made it work is that in the previous continuity it was said that Freddy Krueger might have been a child molester. In this movie it's confirmed that he is, so that makes him even more evil, even more hateable. And when you see the way he kills people, just like the previous one, he enjoys killing, he likes hurting people. So again, they're keeping the core aspect of Freddy Krueger intact. The design are great, he is a villain, he is evil, and the new actor really did a great job with bringing this character to life. The story is great, the characters are great, and Freddy Krueger is great. And finally, number 1 is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Nothing beats the original. The original Nightmare on Elm Street is a classic in horror. It's where we first see Freddy fucking Krueger and his main opposition, the first main protagonist of the series that I still think is the best protagonist. I really think this movie did it all. It did a really great job, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Story, character, all is great in this movie. If I were gonna give this movie a ranking, I would give it an 8 out of 10. And that's it for this video. Do you guys enjoy any of those movies? Did you dislike anyone in this franchise? Let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what ranking you will put it in. And I hope to see you guys again next time.